I probably told this story 100 times by now, how I got into wrestling. If you haven't heard it yet, here's a little side quest flashback with a little speed to it. I'm gonna go through it real quickly. So, stepdad and mom have a fight. He gets verbally and physically abusive with her. She ends up taking me to the next door neighbor's house to vent because she needs to gossip with her best friend. Meanwhile, so I don't listen in on the gossip, the neighbor's son distracts me by watching a videotape of WrestleMania 3. Specific match in mind: Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. I fall in love with wrestling. Rinse and repeat. It happens again and again and again. I come over to a friend's house. I become friends with them. I want to come over every day and hang out with them because they calm me down when I was hysterical about my mother getting hurt. The neighbor has a younger brother my age. We become homies. We become the best of friends from that point on. And either I'm coming home to my house or I'm going to theirs to hang out after school, like a second place, like a second home, because I don't want to be a part of what I have to go through at my own. I hate it there. I hang out with my friends until the streetlights come on. The 90's were built different. Not only did they introduce me to wrestling, but they introduced me to horror. I already talked about that in the October episodes. But there's more. Not only do they introduce me to wrestling and horror, they introduce me to superheroes. Okay, maybe not introduce me, but prior to meeting them, I was a big fan of Thundercats, Masters of the Universe, G.I. Joe. I had the toys. I was watching cartoons. I love everything about those specifics. Thundercats, big Thundercats fan. I was a big collector. Anything that had to do with Thundercats, posters, sticker booklets, Masters of the Universe, G.I. Joe, movies, TV shows, whatever. I was watching that. I loved playing with the toys. It's how me and the older brother, Eduardo, who's probably listening right now because he's asked me before about when the next episode of the podcast was going to be when I was on break a year ago. So I'm assuming he's listening in and hoping that I get him in on the show real soon. Eduardo, if you don't mind, we need to talk. We'll get to talk soon, sir. So he gets me. One day, I'm playing outside with the toys, and he comes up and says, what I had were awesome. And he told me he had a few of his own at home, at his house, at his place. Stop by and he will show them to me. No, I didn't think anything awkward of that. At the time, we don't. We become friends. That's how friends become friends. Hey, I got a few toys. I'll show them to you. Okay, cool. Young and naive, young. We're kids. We're young. Fast forward a few months later, and I remember what he said about his toys. So he brings out his box. I recognize Superman because, well, I was a big fan. I'm still a big fan. Christopher Reeve will always be my favorite Superman. But when I was homesick from school, I would always watch the classics. I Love Lucy and George Reeves Superman. Lucy! I meant Lucy, not Lucy. I Love Lucy and George Reeves Superman. And that's how I would know about Supes. And that's how I would end up breaking elbow. I think that's what it was. I pre- I had a cape on and I flew and I hit the toy, the Macho Man Randy Savage Big Buddy toy. Yeah, the plush pillow. And I had a cape. Whatever. I was aware of the DC Classic stuff, is what I'm saying. But it wasn't until I got to Eduardo's house that I was unaware and introduced to the Marvel toys. Obviously, I knew about Hulk because I would watch The Incredible Hulk with Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno, but that's all that I knew. They brought out other toys from the Marvel line and tried to introduce me to them. I was familiar with Spider-Man and Fantastic Four because they were cartoons, but I was naive about the whole company. I thought it was one big superhero stuff. I even asked when Hulk was going to fight Superman. I didn't know. Back to the story. They knew I didn't know anything about this, so I was given a few comic books to introduce me to that. Still not paying attention. I'm young. I don't know any better. I see superheroes and I'm lost inside the pages. Every day after school, I go to the store and I see a spinning rack full of comic books. Then I just stare at the pictures and smile because I know who they are. So Eduardo lets me borrow a few comic books to take home to read to get to know. I read them. One day, my stepdad walks into my room because they still think I'm watching gorgeous ladies of wrestling. He sees that I have comic books and I try to hide them, thinking I would get in trouble for having them, making sure I have the right ones so he doesn't go off and tell her. Instead, he goes to his room, pulls out a box crate full of comic books. Nothing but Batman stuff. I guess it's the part where I said we bonded. It, I guess we bond on that. It took me a whole year to finally catch up and read all the books, and by that time I was going through another crate. Then that whole trip to Nicaragua happened. Y'all heard the grandma stories. That's a year and a half, 2 years maybe. I forgot when I left, when I came back. Fast forward to when I went back home, though. He introduced me to more comic books. This time, 5 more crates. But the fact that he's still very physically abusive to my mom doesn't help. In 1993, we moved from LA to Sacramento with my uncle and my grandfather. On this big U-Haul truck, I had the 10 crates of comics with me. That was basically all DC stuff until he told me, my uncle told me his comic books would blow mine out of the water. He showed me his Marvel, X, everything, X-Force, X-Factor, X-Men, Iron Man, Hulk, all that stuff. He basically just introduced me and told me the difference between Marvel, DC, Image. He introduced me to Spawn and then showed me his collection of toys. And from that moment on, I was a big fan of everything superhero. I even told my classmates that I had 8 crates of comic books and brought them for show and tell. They didn't believe me at first. I only brought one case. I lied. I only brought one case. They didn't believe that I had more. So they sent one of the students out there to go look. He sees it. He tries to see borrow some so he can read some. My place suddenly becomes, hey, this guy has comic book. Let's go check him out. Obviously, I was new at the school and I was trying to hard to fit in until finally at lunchtime, some kids were talking about the X-Men cartoons, and I didn't even know that was a thing. I asked about it and they told me about the Saturday morning lineup, and right there is what brought me to the dance. That's when I knew that I would always be a geek, when I barely want to wake up early for school, but I love waking up early for a cartoon on Saturday mornings. Welcome back to my podcast, listeners. We are gathered here today to bring back the show from a small hiatus. I needed a break. Truthfully, I couldn't handle not being on here. I'm an evolution of a geek, evil if you're nasty. And we are back with another brand spanking new episode of From Under the Apron. I took that break, as you all know, every 50 episodes. I like to take one and refresh my head. Usually I come back with fresh new ideas or just revamp the show. This time is no different. As you all heard at the start of the show, my origin story of how I became a comic book fan slash wrestling fan slash horror fan. We're gonna get through the wrestling stuff again, no worries. I just want to talk about another subject that I love. So, my third place network fans. Catchy? You like that? Say I'm trying to like come up with something new to call you guys. Third Place Network Squad. How's that? How do you like that? TPNS. TPNS. You're digging it? I hope you are. So, my Third Place Network Squad fans, friends, I hope you are ready. Because while I was away, I was watching X-Men 97 and thought I should do a rewatch of the original X-Men cartoons from the 90s, and that's exactly what I did. I wanted to watch it from the start again because why not? And because I was so freaking, I loved the whole Deadpool and Wolverine thing that's going on right now, and I just want to like, I want to go back. I want to go back to when I was a child. It's nostalgia hit me, and I want to go back to when I was happy, to when I was a little kid, no worries in my life, and just tell you what I thought of the X-Men when I first laid eyes on them. So I went ahead and started from the beginning and thought I might as well discuss these episodes on Here We Are. If y'all let me, if y'all want to be a part of this, keep listening. I'm still gonna do season 3 of Glow of Wrestling and some music stuff, as well as revisiting horror movies in October. I'm still gonna do that. I got more ideas coming in. I talk to people. I'm gonna interview people. I'm gonna do more music stuff. Don't you worry. This show isn't going anywhere, baby. Okay, that was just too much. I'm not gonna edit it out. I'm gonna keep it. You're you're in here along with me with the corny stuff and the good stuff and the bad stuff. It's testing the water, so to speak. But I wanted to talk about this after watching episode 5 X-Men 97. Yes, that traumatic episode. Oh my god. Yeah, that cut. So I'm telling you, episode 5 got a lot of people from that era, from the 90s. People that watched that show, we we all felt that. We all bonded to that drama, and we're all here. We're all here. So let's do a rewind and rewatch of X-Men in 1992. So how is this gonna work? I don't know. It's going to be the same as how I've done it with Glee, Healed, and Young Rock. Read the plot from the X-Men fandom website at times, tell you that I will have bits of trivia here and there, and if by time permits, possibly look up additional interviews from the creators, directors, or voice actors of the show throughout the years. I can't wait. When will these episodes be available? Depending on how many people listen to this episode itself. I'm just testing the waters. I'm still a wrestling podcast. I'm still talking about wrestling. But I want to talk about something else that I love. This is from Under the Apron, but it could be something more. I told you this before. I'm evolving this show. I'm evolving myself. This is growth, guys. We are gonna talk about everything that I love. But this is a show. It's all for you as well. Tell me if it's something that listeners don't want to hear, then I won't continue to do so. But how? How will I find out? You can send me a message at FromUnderTheApron at gmail.com and tell me yourself you want me to continue doing these episodes or just stick to the wrestling and the Glow TV shows. Next season is season 3, and it's the last season. It's the final season. They didn't pick up for a fourth season, but they want to do a movie. So we'll get back to that. First, I want to talk about X-Men from 1992. The first episode is right here. The first episode was called Night of the Sentinels Part 1, released on October 31st, 1992, created by Mark Edward Edens, Sidney Wander, and Eric Lewald, directed by Larry Houston, written by Mark Edward Eden. The voice actors are Cedric Smith as Charles Xavier, Professor X, Norman Spencer as Scott Summers, Cyclops, Kyle Dodd as Logan Wolverine, Iona Morris as Aurora Monroe Storm, Catherine Disher as Jean Grey, George Buza as Hank McCoy, Beast, Lenore Zan as Rogue, Chris Potter as Laramie LeBeau, Gambit, Allison Court as Jubilation Lee or Jubilee, Ron Rubin as Morph, Len Carlson as Robert Kelly, Jubilee's foster father, Len Carlson as Robert Kelly and Jubilee's foster father, Don Franks as Graydon Creed Sr., Sabretooth, Barry Flatman as Henry, Peter Gyrich, David Fox as Sentinel, Britt Halsey Bolivar Trask, and Jubilee's mother, Martha, unknown actress. They didn't say anything about it here. Initially, another actress was cast as Jubilee. While that actress was a professional, she had a sweeter and cuter voice that was not what the producers wanted to portray. Alan Court was brought in to record the pilot at a great expense. She had to record a third time after the writers redid parts and a fourth time after recording more episodes. Synopsis. A young girl finds her world turned upside down when an enormous robot begins hunting her due to her developing mutant powers. On the run from those who hate her, she heads straight into the world of the uncanny X-Men. They learn that the mutant outreach program has a sinister secret and launch an all-out attack to stop it. So when we meet these X-Men, I'm also going to tell you the comic books that they first appeared in, what comic book is essential to read on this while watching this episode, all that stuff. So let's begin. A large man growls as he lifts two men above his head. A reporter explains that there was a violence in the downtown area believed to have been started by a mutant. The attacker throws the men in different directions. One man flies into another, who is swinging a chain and standing next to a smashed car and broken firehead and gushing water into the street. That large man being Sabretooth. The original portrayal of Sabretooth was that of a non-powered serial killer, but was later written as a mutant possessing bestial superhuman abilities, most notably a rapid healing factor, razor-sharp fangs and claws, and superhuman senses. He is a vicious assassin who was responsible for numerous deaths throughout history, both as a paid mercenary and for his personal pleasure. Accounts on how his enmity with Wolverine originated differs depending on different writers. One of the most common accounts is that Wolverine and Sabretooth were both participants of the Cold War Super Soldier Program Weapon X, and that Sabretooth saw Wolverine as competition and therefore antagonized him. While Wolverine is depicted as suppressing his more savage qualities, Sabretooth does the opposite and embraces them until the events of the 24 storyline Axis. The character has appeared on several X-Men media. In live action, he's portrayed by Tyler Mane, wrestler, in the film X-Men 2000, and by Liev Schreiber? I forgot to say his name. And by Liev Schreiber in the film X-Men Origins, Wolverine 2009. In May 2008, Wizard magazine ranked Sabretooth number 193 of the 200 best comic book characters of all time. In 2009, Sabretooth was ranked as IGN's 44th greatest comic book villain of all time. Back to the show. The reporter claims that this fueling anti-mutant hysteria that is spreading across the nation. The man storms by a flaming car and grabs onto a stopping police car. Three more surround the mutant. Sabretooth lifts the car and the two officers inside escape. Four more cars surround Sabretooth as he lifts it above its head and flings it to the air. The reporter goes on to say a witness claims there was just one attacker that was big and hairy. Elsewhere, a man turns off the television, ending the report as the car explodes with the camera. He tells his wife, Martha, that she is one of them and needs help. Martha wonders how he could have registered her with the Mutant Control Agency like she is some sort of criminal getting in his face. The man explains that the agency is not a prison but an outreach program to help unfortunate people. He embraces his wife, explaining that this is for her own good and that he loves Jubilee. Martha starts crying, wondering what will happen to her. He doesn't know, but worries that her powers will be discovered and that others will not understand. At the top of the stairs, Jubilee overhears. She wonders why this is happening to her since she used to be a normal kid. She crouches to the ground and begins to cry. Outside, a large robot flies overhead and across the moon. It lands on the street, crushing a streetlight and crumbling the sidewalk. A dog runs up to it and begins barking. The robot is known as the Sentinel and is created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. They first appeared in the X-Men number 14, November of 1965. Sentinels are programmed to locate humans and capture or kill them. Though several types of sentinels have been introduced, the typical sentinel is 3 stories tall, is capable of flight, projects, energy blast, and can detect humans. Mutants, actually, I'm sorry, and can detect mutants. Pursuing genocide as a means of dealing with a threat has made the Sentinels an analogy for racial hatred and other negative types of fanatism in Marvel stories. Represent the horrific consequences of humanity's actions based on hate and ignorance, along with a caution of the risk of AI takeover. Back to the show, the Sentinel's eyes glow and it tries to snatch a dog. Luckily, the animal runs away. The robot stands once more towering over the 3 story building. It begins scanning the building as it walks along the street. Nobody can hear this apparently, since it like made a big splash on the street and you know earthquake or something, but nobody can hear a robot just walking down the street. Okay. Inside the house, Martha wonders if they're wrong and she isn't really a mutant. The father says she must be kidding. He opens the entertainment center and reminds her what Jubilee did to the VCR by safely touching it. He points to the burnt and damaged device. Outside, a sentinel smashes through trees as it continues its march, so nobody can hear it still. It stomps on the road next to a car, causing it to tip on its side. Whoever is driving sees a big giant robot and doesn't call for help. Okay. Martha asks her husband if he regrets taking Jubilee in. He retorts that he does not. Upstairs, a sentinel peeks into the window of Jubilee's room, the eyes illuminating the room, and smashes his arm through the window and inside. The parents hear the noise upstairs and gasp. The sentinel grabs the bed, but when it pulls it out, it finds that there are no living objects inside. It drops the bed, begins the tracking program, and stomps away. No. Okay. Martha calls out to Jubilee asking if she's alright. When she opens the door, she sees the destruction and screams. Like, she didn't have any kind of urgency to just run upstairs. She just like, Jubilee, are you alright, honey? Opens the door, it's like, oh my god! I mean, I would be expecting something bigger. Later, in an arcade, Jubilee plays at one of the machines. She fires at her enemies but is grabbed by a giant creature. However, she is depressed at the thought that her adopted parents are ashamed of her since she thought they loved her. She then threatens the game's enemies. Her character escapes the creature's clutches and continues firing. Outside the mall, the sentinel stops through the parking lot. People scream as the cars around them shake with each footfall. However, one kid wants his mother to buy him one and runs after it with the mother chasing him. It crushes the front of one car, causing people to flee in terror. A woman runs to a police officer demanding that he do something. He asks what he's supposed to do, as it stomps by them. The sentinel scans the parking lot and claims that it's closing in on its target. Back in the arcade, Jubilee wonders what is wrong with being a mutant anyways. Just then, sparks fly out of her hand and destroys the arcade game. She cries out that this is happening again, as the crowd gathers to see the arcade manager, who looked just like Stanley, with a E in the middle of his shirt. Excelsior. The arcade manager angrily asks if she knows how much those machines cost. She flips down her glasses, claims a quarter, and sips from her soda. Ooh, the sass. He then realizes that she is one of them, a mutant. Jubilee runs out of the arcade with the man yelling that he doesn't want mutants around here. Mutants. The video game shop owner is the uncredited appearance of Stan Lee, wearing a shirt with a big E on it, presumably for Stan Lee's motive, Excelsior. Excelsior! I don't know how to say it. As she runs, she complains about how stupid the man is. Wow, that's funny. Without looking where she is going, Jubilee bumps into 2 women, causing them to drop their boxes. As the 3 of them crash to the ground, Jubilee yells at the 2 to look where they are going. She grabs her glasses and runs off. The southern woman wonders what was wrong with her, while the white-haired woman begins to pick up the mass of boxes. Jubilee runs around the corner past Larry's bookstore. A janitor picks up an empty glass when he looks up through the window to see a giant robot outside and screams. Nobody can hear the scream, apparently. The southern woman is Rogue and the white-haired woman is Storm. Rogue first appeared in Avengers Annual number 10 in 1991 in her comic book appearances. Rogue is depicted as a mutant, a subspecies of human born with an X gene that grants superhuman abilities. She is capable of absorbing the life force, attributes, memories, and superpowers of anyone through physical touch. Rogue is initially portrayed as a reluctant supervillain, but she soon joins the X-Men as a superhero and has since endured one of its most prominent members. Often listed as one of the most notable and powerful female characters in Marvel Comics, Rogue has been adapted in various media incarnations. Anna Paquin portrayed the character in 20th Century's Fox X-Men film series, while Lenore Zan, Megan Black, and Kieran Van Den Blink have provided her voice in animation. Storm first appeared in Giant Size X-Men number 1 in May of 1975. Descended from a long line of African witch priests, she is able to control the weather and atmosphere. It is considered to be one of the most powerful mutants on the planet and one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel Universe. One of the most prominent characters in the X-Men series, Storm has appeared in various forms of media relating to the franchise, including animation, television, video games, and a series of films. The character was first portrayed in live action by Halle Berry in the 2000 film X-Men. Berry returned to portray the role in sequels X2, X-Men The Last Stand, and X-Men Days of Future Past. The younger version of Storm was portrayed by Alexander Shipp in the 2016 film X-Men Apocalypse. Shipp had a cameo in Deadpool 2 and reprised her role in the 2019 film X-Men Dark Phoenix. Outside, people continue to scream as it runs. Outside, people continue to scream and run as it punches its way through the windows. It tells the people to not be alarmed as it is only going to serve and protect. However, people inside are now screaming and running. In a store, a southern man known as Gambit looks at several playing cards. The attractive clerk by asking if he likes to play cards. Neither notices the sentinel stomping by because nobody notices the sentinel stomping by. A Gambit approaches her and flirts back that he likes solitaire unless he has someone to play with. Adult joke in a kids TV show, How 90's. Gambit made his first appearances in the X-Men Uncanny X-Men Annual Number 14 of July 1990 and the Uncanny X-Men 266 in August of 1990. Gambit has the ability to mentally create, control, and manipulate pure kinetic energy to his desire. He is also incredibly knowledgeable and skilled in card throwing, hand-to-hand combat, and use of a bow staff. Gambit is known to charge playing cards and other objects with kinetic energy, using them as explosive and projectiles. He was part of Thieves' Guild before becoming a member of the X-Men. Given his history, few X-Men trusted Gambit when he joined the group. There was consistently a source of stress between him and an off-again, on-again love interest and eventual wife, Rogue. This was exacerbated when Gambit's connection to the villain Master Sinister was revealed. Although some of his team members accepted that Gambit honestly seeks redemption, often portrayed as a ladies' man, Gambit has shown a more vulnerable side of himself over the years, especially when it comes to Rogue. Gambit is a Cajun from New Orleans. He is fiercely proud of his heritage and speaks both Cajun English and Louisiana French. Gambit made his live-action debut in the 2000 film X-Men Origins, Wolverine portrayed by Taylor Kish. Back to the show, Jubilee runs to the escalator and writes it down. She pushes up her glasses when she hears screaming in the distance. Just then, a group of people run up to the escalator, shoving her aside. She tells them to watch out. She then spots the sentinel stomping by, visibly shaking. She hopes the thing is merely mall security. That big? Unfortunately, the robot spots her just before she moves under a walkway. It crouches down and sees her exiting the escalator on the second floor. It zooms in on her face and identifies her as its target. According to the Sentinel's heads-up display, Jubilee's mutant file number is 051063-244. Her full name is Jubilation Lee. She is 5 foot 152 centimeters tall, weighs 90 pounds, 40 kilograms, is Chinese American, and lives at 764 Lucille Court West. Jubilee hears the screams out for help and runs away. Her voice actress is Alison Court, who is Canadian and thus from the West. 051063-244. Uncanny X-Men was created in 1963. The Uncanny X-Men number 244, which came out on January 17, 1989, which was Jubilee's first appearance. In the issue, Jubilee is attacked by a mutant hunting squad of normal humans at the Hollywood Mall and is saved by Storm, Rogue, Dazzler, and Psylocke. That issue also featured Rogue dealing with Ms. Marvel's mind inside hers, which was the inspiration for a Rogue's tale.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa.
And I'm Dawn.
And if you've ever watched a TV show and thought to yourself, oh my god, that season finale plot twist was absolutely bonkers.
Or seen a movie and thought, wow, I need to talk to somebody about this train wreck immediately.
Then we think you'll fit right in with our podcast, I Hate It, Let's Watch It. We watch TV shows like Riverdale and Emily in Paris.
And movies like Deep Water, Killer Sofa, Rubber, and Deadly Illusions. And we give them the total rinsing they deserve.
It's basically group therapy for movie masochists. So come check us out wherever you stream podcasts.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening!
The Sentinel extends its arm and a cable shoots out of its hand. As Jubilee runs up the escalator, the cable wraps around her. Standing outside the Elizabeth Secret's door, because, Victoria's Secret, Rogue and Storm with their packages look at the clothes through the window. Suddenly a crowd of people run through screaming to run. The two watch them pass, and Rogue wonders if there's a sale. Just then, they hear Jubilee's cries for help. They turn and see the Sentinel lifting Jubilee to its face. The girl kicks the Sentinel and demands to be let down. In response, it twists her upside down. She then pleads with the Sentinel. Suddenly, thunder is heard as Storm introduces herself as Mistress of the Elements and commands the Sentinel to release the girl. I love when she does that. Oh, Storm, you are but my queen. You are. She is shooting lightning from her fingertips with a cloud form above her, and her eyes are completely white. Rogue asks her to lighten up on the speeches, sugar. It won't be the first. It is the first, but it won't be the last that she ever says that. Trust me. Jubilee asks them to keep talking to the Sentinel. The Sentinel scans the two, but is unable to identify either one. It decides to ignore the two. It stands, and Jubilee screams. Suddenly, lightning courses over Storm, and her clothes turn into a white uniform with a large cape. She flies into the air and fires a blast of electricity at the robot. Can we note this is the first time Rogue ever says the word sugar? And my life is never the same after this. Because whenever someone asks for sugar, never mind. Let's just not talk about that. This is the only episode that Storm transforms her clothes. Larry Houston suggests that her suit is the same unstable molecules used by the Fantastic Four as seen during David Cochrum's run on the comics. The blast hits the cable and drops Jubilee. The Sentinel turns to watch her fall. Storm flies down and catches her out of the air just before the robot can grab her. Jubilee is amazed that the woman can fly. The Sentinel orders the mutant to stop. Meanwhile, Rogue grabs the escalator and rips it up. The Sentinel fires a blast from his hand, but the escalator stairs rise up and block it before it hits Storm and Jubilee. The Sentinel crouches down to see her. Storm and Jubilee land just as the woman flies into the air. She punches the Sentinel's head, knocking it back. Jubilee is amazed at what Rogue is doing and hugs Storm. Storm wraps her arms around Jubilee and jokes that Rogue has a way with men. They watch as Rogue throws another punch. However, the robot retaliates by smacking her with its fist. She flips in the air and flies under another swing. Back in the store, Gambit says how much he likes the cars. He is about to say more when he hears the screams. Not paying attention, the clerk asks if he likes anything else. He walks out saying he will return soon. Rogue punches the Sentinel, knocking it back. So basically, Gambit didn't hear all the screams. He didn't hear the commotion. He is now just hearing it. So what the Maul is not okay. Gambit sees it coming towards him and runs away from the window. Rogue flies up to watch it. Storm orders Jubilee to wait there. She is amazed when Storm flies up in a gust of wind. The Sentinel's eye glows and sit up. The clerk cries out, not knowing what it is. Gambit jokes that insurance can deal with the damage, then gets up and runs out. Storm flies up next to Rogue. Rogue wonders what that thing is. Suddenly the robot shoots energy from both his hands, and the two women are blasted through the skylight above and onto the roof. As they struggle to get it up, Storm knows that it might be a robot. With the two gone, the robot looks down at Jubilee, telling the mutant to stop. Jubilee wonders who is a mutant, then runs away, not wanting an answer. The Sentinel watches her round a corner and then blasts the floor. Jubilee falls to the floor first. Jubilee falls to the first floor but is caught by the man. Yeah, the man. He asks where she is going and she replies, anywhere but here. Suddenly, the sentinel walks up and orders the man to stand aside as it must capture her. The man, Gambit, holds up a playing card in his hand and the card glows. He throws it and it explodes in the robot's chest. The sentinel stands and backs away as more cards explode against it. Jubilee wonders how Gambit is doing that, then runs away. Gambit says, I love the way this Gambit says it. With style, Petit. With style. That will forever be living rent free in my head. How did you do that? With style, Petit. With style. He calls out to her to wait since he, Gambit, wants to help as he's a mutant as well. Wait, I'm a mutant too. He doesn't see until it's too late as the robot crouches down and fires directly at him. Jubilee runs down the mall freaking out about the strange stuff going on. Behind her, Gambit flies through a sign and into a car that can be won. Jubilee hides around behind a column and watches Sentinels approach Gambit. She hopes the robot doesn't see her. She turns and becomes frightened when the Sentinel stops to look at Gambit. The Sentinel scans Gambit, who struggles and groans to get up. Finding him unregistered, the robot declares him expendable. It then looks up to see Julie step out from behind the column. She tells the robot to get away from Gambit. Then she raises her hands and sparks fly out. They hit the robot and it staggers back. She looks at her hands, not believing it. Just then, Gambit sits up and orders her to run. The robot stomps past him. Jubilee runs outside, wondering what she ever did and why she is a mutant. She says she is just a kid. The robot buzzed through the window and into the night air. He releases a canister from his hand and rolls past Jubilee, releasing knockout gas. She coughs as she stumbles upon a man in blue and yellow uniform and a visor. She asks who he is and he replies that he's Cyclops. He orders her to get down. She begins to pass out, saying she doesn't have a choice. Cyclops first appeared in the X-Men #1, September of 1963. He was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. He has been a mainstay character of the X-Men series. Cyclops emits powerful beams of energy from his eyes and can only control the beams with the aid of special eyewear, which he must wear at all times. He is typically considered the first of the X-Men, a team of mutant heroes who fight for peace and equality between mutants and humans, and one of the team's primary leaders. Lee said that Cyclops and Beast were his two favorite X-Men, elaborating that I loved tortured heroes, and he was tortured because he couldn't control his power. Originally dubbed Slim Powers by the X-Men #3, his name was changed to Scott when Slim becoming a nickname. James Marsden initially portrayed Cyclops in the 20th Century Fox X-Men film, while a younger version of the character was portrayed by Tim Pocock in the 2009 prequel film X-Men Origins Wolverine, and he was portrayed by Ty Sheridan in X-Men Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, as well as a cameo in Deadpool 2. Jubilee falls into Cyclops' arms and the robot blasts a nearby lamppost. The robot stomps towards him. Cyclops knows that he used an energy blast and says, here's one from a pro. He shoots a beam of red energy from his visor. It blasts the robot through the neck, decapitating it. The robot falls backwards, smashing several nearby cars. Its head crashes nearby. Jubilee moans on the ground. Later, a large mansion stands in the night. Inside, Jubilee lies in an infirmary with machines beeping. She wakes and wonders where she is. Just then, sparks shoot from her arm along a cord connecting her to an EKG monitor, causing it to short out. She takes off the monitor band, gets out of bed, and complains about all the machines. She creeps to the door and looks out the small window. She tries the door but finds it locked. She points at it but nothing happens. She holds up her finger knowing she can do something. Suddenly a spark forms. She again points at the lock and this time it fires and explodes. The lock falls off in a large metal hallway. As she creeps out, Jubilee notes that the mutant powers do have their advantages. She opens the door and spots a large blue man grabbing a liquid-filled flask next to a microscope. She gasps when she sees the man is hanging upside down with his feet grabbing a bar. He pours the liquid into another flask, knowing how bad it would be if it exploded. Of course, Beast, of course, it would float. You're such a scientist. He flips and lands, noting that it's interesting if it did explode. Jubilee runs by the doorway, wondering how to get out. The large blue man was Beast, originally called the Beast. The character was introduced and first appeared in X-Men number 1, September of 1963, as a mutant possessing ape-like superhuman physical strength and agility, oversized hands and feet, a genius-level intellect, and otherwise normal appearance and speech. Stan Lee writes in the foreword to X-Men: The Ultimate Guide that he made Beast the most articulate, eloquent, and well-read of the X-Men, to contrast with his brutish exterior, eventually being referred to simply as Beast. Hank McCoy underwent progressive psychological transformations, gaining animalistic physical characteristics. These include blue fur, both human and feline facial features, pointed ears, fangs, and claws. Beast's physical strength and senses increased to even greater levels. The character has also appeared in media adaptations, including animated TV series and feature films. Kelsey Grammer played the Beast in X-Men The Last Stand, while Nicholas Hoult portrayed a younger version of the character in X-Men First Class. Both Holt and Grammer reprised their roles in X-Men Days of Future Past, and Holt reprised the role in X-Men Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, while Grammer reprised the role in the Marvel Cinematic Universe film The Marvels. Jubilee runs by another door when she hears a news broadcast. A Robert Kelly is announcing the attack at the New Salem Mall as part of ongoing mutant men's violence. Jubilee peeks inside to see a man watching the broadcast. Suddenly changes his shape into the man on the television and jokes in the other man's voice that he is an idiot. The mutant changes back to himself and laughs. The man changes the channel and sees an advertisement for aggression, a clone by Calvin Klein. A woman is shown sitting at the feet of a man wearing a ripped shirt on the beach. The man then transforms into the man in the ad. Then the news report shows footage of Jubilee and the robot at the mall. An announcer wonders if she was kidnapped by mutants and vomits the film that night. The man then changes into Jubilee and repeats the line. Jubilee is shocked, backs away, and runs down the hall. That man was named Morph. Morph's first comic book appearance was in 1992's X-Men Adventures #1, which adapted the Night of the Sentinels TV pilot. Then, in 1995, inspired by the character in the animated series, a new Morph was featured in the Age of Apocalypse crossover event, debuting in the one-shot comic X-Men Alpha. The character underwent a drastic change in appearance for this event, appearing white-skinned and hairless. Then in 2001, Marvel introduced an alternate reality version of this Morph from Earth 1081. He first appeared in Exiles 1. Jubilee enters a room with several chairs and monitors. She can hear several reports at once. One notes that a strange woman was seen near the scene of the violence. Another claims that amateur video color comes from something. The monitors show a pale white woman with a black patch over her eye, Domino, a man with fire shooting out of his leg, Cannonball, and an ad for the Genosha Beach Inn. Oh, Genosha. Wish I could go there one day. Suddenly, the main monitor shows Sabretooth throwing people around. It cuts to another man wearing red armor and a helmet, lifting tanks with powers from his hands. Magneto. We'll get back to him later. Then it cuts to the mutant-hating man saying that they need to treat all mutants as potential danger to mankind. Senator Robert Kelly. Jubilee turns off the monitor. She begins to run, but she sees the head of the Sentinel. Then she hears voices behind her and hides. A bald man in a hovering chair and a woman named Jean enter the room. The man claimed that what happened at the mall was inevitable. He knew the X-Men would be revealed to the public someday, but he had hoped for something different. The bald man is obviously Professor Xavier, Professor X, or Wheels, as Wolverine once said, and he first appeared in the X-Men #1, September 1963. The character is depicted as the founder and occasional leader of the X-Men. He is an exceptionally powerful telepath who can read and control the minds of others. To both shelter and train mutants from around the world, he runs a private school in the X-Mansion in Salem Center, located in Westchester County, New York. Xavier also strives to serve a greater good by promoting peaceful coexistence and equality between humans and mutants in a world where zealous anti-mutant bigotry is widespread. Oh, it's still happening. Patrick Stewart portrayed the character in the first 3 films in the 20th Century Fox film series and in various video games, while James McAvoy portrayed a younger version of the character in the 2011 prequel X-Men First Class. Both actors reprised the role in the film X-Men Days of Future Past. Stewart reprised the role in the film Logan, while McAvoy would further appear as a younger iteration of the character in X-Men Apocalypse in 2016, Deadpool 2 in 2018, and Dark Phoenix in 2019. Harry Lloyd portrayed the character in the 3rd season of the television series Legion. If you haven't seen Legion, you should check it out. Stewart again returned to the role portraying an alternate version of the character in the 2022 Marvel Cinematic Universe film Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Jean Grey first appeared in the X-Men #1, September 1963. Jean Grey was born with psionic powers. The character was also been known as Marvel Girl, Phoenix, and Dark Phoenix at various points in their history. Often listed as one of the most notable and powerful female characters in Marvel Comics, the character has been featured in various other Marvel licensed products, including video games, animated television series, and merchandise. Famke Janssen portrayed the character as an adult in the 20th Century Fox film, while Sophie Turner portrayed her as a teenager and young adult. Jean stops when she sees that the monitors are off. Xavier holds his hand to his forehead and sees an image of Jubilee hiding just outside the room. He realizes that Jubilee did it and is trying to escape. He turns towards the door as she starts running down the hall. As she flees, an alarm begins blaring and Professor X calls for Code 3, Intruder. She reaches an intersection, looks both ways, and heads left. Jubilee reaches the end of the hall and is stopped by a large door. There is a flashing sign above it calling the Danger Room. She hears a voice behind her telling Beast to check her way. Beast, the large blue man, runs down the hall, then up on the wall. Jubilee begins pressing buttons at random. She then fires a blast at it, and the door opens. However, the computer announces it is starting the Gambit Wolverine training sequence. Jubilee runs inside as the massive doors close. The room is completely dark until a brick wall appears before changing into a concrete one and then a metal and rock wall. Jubilee is surprised and horrified as she turns around. A massive spiked ball heads towards her. She ducks, then runs, wishing she could go back to the giant robot. Gambit runs up and knows that there is no place for her. No place for you, petite. Just then, three long metal claws break through a wall. Inside the hole is a man in a black, yellow, and blue uniform. Wolverine. Bub. Wolverine first appeared in the last panel of the Incredible Hulk number 180 before having a larger role in number 181, cover dated November 1994, in the Bronze Age of Comics. He was created by writer Len Wein and Marvel art director John Romita Sr. Romita designed the character's costume, but the character was first drawn by publication by Irv Tribe. Since 2017, Marvel editor-in-chief Roy Thomas has claimed co-creator credit. He is a mutant with animal keen senses and enhanced physical abilities, a powerful regenerative ability known as the Healing Factor, a skeleton reinforced with an unbreakable fictional metal adamantium, and 3 retractable claws in each hand. In addition to the X-Men, Wolverine has been depicted as a member of X-Force, Alpha Flight, the Fantastic Four, and the Avengers. The common depiction of Wolverine is multifaceted as he is portrayed as once as a gruff loner, susceptible to animalistic berserker rages. Berserker! I just love Mallrats. Berserker! Wait, was that Mallrats or was that Clerks? Berserker. Okay. Either way, I love Clerks and Mallrats. I love Kevin Smith. And that's where I heard the song, right? Berserker. Alright, whatever. He's portrayed as once as a gruff loner, susceptible to animalistic berserker rages, despite his best efforts, while simultaneously being an incredibly knowledgeable and intelligent polyglot, strategist, and martial artist, partially due to extended lifespan and expansive lived experiences. He has been featured in comic books, films, animation, and video games. Do you really want to know the movies he's been? I'll tell you. He's appeared in most X-Men media adaptations, including animated television series, video games, and film. In live action, Hugh Jackman obviously portrayed the character across 10 installments of the X-Men film series produced by the 20th Century Fox between 2000 and 2018. 10 movies between 20 years, and will reprise a role in the Marvel Cinematic Universe film Deadpool and Wolverine later this year, in May. Troy Sivan portrayed a young version of Logan in the 2009 film X-Men Origins Wolverine. Can't wait for this movie to come out, finally. Gambit charges a card and throws it at Wolverine. The clawed man leaps out of the way as it explodes. Gambit falls to the floor and is then lifted up as the computer initiates a piston. Gambit rolls off just before it crushes him in between another piston, though it takes part of his jacket. Gambit lands but is tackled by Wolverine. He says that Gambit is now. It then raises his clawed hand as the game is over. Wolverine asks if the agent has had enough and asks him to say uncle. Say uncle. It's not uncle, it says say uncle. Jubilee orders Wolverine not to hurt him, and he turns in surprise. She shoots sparks from her hands, then knocks him back into the wall hard. The door opens and Storm, Beast, and Morph enter. Storm asks if the child is alright. Wolverine groans and replies, "She won't be for long." Jubilee backs up as Gambit stands, saying she wanted to help stop the fight. Beast and Morph laugh at Wolverine. He pulls out his claws and growls to stop them. They stop. Gambit reassures her that all she heard was his pride. She then asks what his place is. She then asks what this place is. Beast explains it's part gymnasium and part survivor course known as the Danger Room. Storm leads Jubilee away, offering to explain who they are. Outside, birds fly away from the mansion. Storm leads Jubilee to the roof. Storm explains that they are all mutants. Jubilee wonders what a mutant is. Storm responds that no one knows who will be one when they are born, but they discover their powers at Jubilee's age. She goes on to say that Professor Xavier is the leader of their team, the X-Men. She reassures Jubilee that they are safe there. Storm explains that she can control the weather, hence her name. Jubilee knows that makes sense, as opposed to her name since she just blows stuff up. Storm reassures her she is in the right place. She introduces the place as Professor Xavier's School for the Gifted. Jubilee claims that gifted is just another word for mutants or weirdos like her. Storm holds her, replying mutants like all of them. Jubilee thinks that they are too old for school and asks if they were held back. She's such a naive little girl, I swear. Storm explains that they learn something special there. She raises her arm and shoots lightning into the sky. Jubilee is shocked that winds blast her. Storm goes on to say that they learn to control the powers that help mankind. Jubilee, blocking the wind with her arm, asks her to stop already. Storm's miniature storms relent and Jubilee asks why people hate them. Storm responds that, and remember this for the rest of your life, because it will always be the truth. Storm responds that people hate what they do not understand. People hate what they do not understand. Hey, it's Evo. We're going to get back to the episode you're listening to, but first, let me tell you about Dark Fate Creations. Dark Fate Creations are candles that are vibrant, colorful, marble tops, amazing, mouth-watering fragrances, fueled by lovely braided cotton wicks. Paper threads woven into every cotton wick for a clean, romantic, slow, and consistent burn. Each candle is unique from the next as they are hand-mixed and hand-poured right in Grass Valley, California. They use only coconut and soy waxes for a safer, cleaner, and longer burn time. That's almost 72 hours. That's like binging on all 130 episodes of the podcast. All fragrance blends have been heavily researched. Dark Fate Creations not only care about the look, fragrance, and quality of their candles and their other products, but also the effects they have in their customers' homes. So go to darkfatecreations.com. The link will be in the show notes.
Do you like to drink wine? Do you like to talk about your favorite things and rank them in categories? Then you have come to the right place. Welcome to the Sip List, a podcast where, you guessed it, we drink lots of wine and make lists of all our favorite things. My name's Amanda, and each week my guest and I will review a favorite wine we're drinking, or if they aren't cool enough to drink wine, then the lame beverage of their choice. And then we will rank our top 5 favorites of different things in different categories. You can expect to hear all kinds of things, from favorite horror movies to favorite Disney characters, favorite true crime books to favorite women in history. The episodes will be diverse, but they will always include wine, lists, and lots of laughs. You can find the Sip List on social media. On Facebook, just search the Sip List Pod. Be sure to like the page and join the private Facebook group for the most up-to-date info on everything that's happening. You can also find us on Instagram at the Sip List Pod. I'm really excited to bring you guys some fun and amazing content, and I hope you'll join me on this journey. And until next time, whenever life is tough, just keep sipping.
Inside the mansion, Xavier explains to the team that he managed to retrieve part of a robot's spatial memory. He pulls up a scan Jubilee along with her information. Cyclops, Storm, Beast, Jean, and Rogue sit around the console. Wolverine enters and Rogue tells him to take a load off. He sees images of Jubilee in her room and asks if anyone knows. Jeez Louise. He sees images of Jubilee in her room and asks if anyone notified her parents yet. Rogue explains they called, but no one answered. Xavier then points out an ID card picture. He, Xavier then points out an ID picture. He points out that it's from the Mutant Control Agency registration file. This is how the robot found her. Cyclops then wonders if the government is plotting against mutants. Xavier explains that the Mutant Control Agency is a private organization occasionally supported by the government. He theorized that someone at the agency has a hidden agenda. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, there's a car parked outside Jubilee's home. Inside, a man with glasses asks if Jubilee has any mutant friends. He holds a picture of Storm and Rogue asking if they know them. Jubilee's father says they don't know and really Jubilee's father says they don't really know much about her friends. Martha pipes up saying she's only been with them a year since she is a foster child. The father says Jubilee always kept her secrets to herself. During this time, Jubilee gets off the bus. After it leaves, she breaks into a run, wanting to make sure her parents are safe. She does not notice another sentinel standing behind some bushes between two buildings. Nobody notices that. You can see the legs right there, but can't look up and see that there's a freaking massive sentinel standing in front of a building, in between two buildings. The robot looks out and watches her go. It moves away a tree and scans her. Oh, okay. Jubilee turns to see it towering over her. She backs up and fires it. And still, it's late at night. No, but he's looking out the window. Honey, what's going on? Just a sentinel firing a mutant. It's okay. I'm not worried. It blocks the blast with its hand and stands up. She runs and it stomps after her. She runs into the street in front of a passing car. The man slams on his brakes when the robot follows. See another passing car that doesn't do anything. She skids to a stop when the second robot walks out from behind the building. Jubilee is horrified as the first robot walks up, trapping her. The second one shoots and knocks out gas from its fingertips, engulfing her. The robot says that the target is apprehended. The man with glasses walks up and congratulates the robot. Jubilee looks up to the man and robot, but falls into unconsciousness. So you're giving praises to the robot now? Is that a thing? Good job, Sentinel. Good job. They don't feel okay. Back at the mansion, Xavier pulls up an image of the Mutant Control Agency's headquarters. He explains to the entire team that the building has files on hundreds of registered mutants who were innocently duped into revealing their identities. Okay. Sounds like something that happened at the MCU. Logan sits down saying that they're going to get in and destroy them. Gambit boasts that he could get in there alone easily. However, Xavier has Storm lead three others into the building. Wolverine, Beast, and Morph. Morph changes his head to Gambit and asks if he will make him feel better to go in like causing Gambit to laugh. Xavier gives Cyclops overall command. Xavier exits into the hall and is followed by Cyclops, who stops him. Cyclops points out that they have been together a long time. He too believes in peaceful coexistence between humans and mutants, but he is worried. Xavier stops him knowing what he is about to say, but they have no choice. Xavier turns and leaves. Logan walks up and asks if the teacher's pet got cold feet. Cyclops turns his head and flashes his visor. Chewing on a toothpick, Logan challenges him to a fight anytime, bub. However, they're interrupted by Jean. Jean! You'll hear it later. She runs up saying that she went to check on Jubilee and found her missing. Logan offers to go after her. Cyclops stops him saying they have a job to do first. Logan turns and pulls out his claw saying he goes wherever he wants. I go wherever I want. He turns and leaves, shoving Gambit out of the way. Gambit pulls out a card and charges it, but Cyclops runs up, ordering to let him go. Gambit tosses the card behind him so it explodes with little force, saying Logan is not worth it. In the night sky, a large jet flies by. It lands in a small clearing in the woods. The side door opens and Rogue and Beast exit. Cyclops orders the team to stay close. Rogue and Beast walk off together as the rest of the team follows. Rogue tells Beast that when she was 13 she had a boyfriend until she kissed him. She explains that the boy was in a coma for 3 days. That's when she realized if she touched anybody, she absorbed their strength. Oh God, I love her voice. Rogue lifts a boulder, then tosses it aside. Gambit and Moore follow behind them. Rogue goes on to say that when the boy stopped calling. That was when the boy stopped calling. Beast laughs and tells her to be fortunate. He says he had dandruff. I'm scared to ask what that means, but okay. Morph pipes up that whenever he was in trouble, he turned to the principal. He transforms into a balding man in a suit and pushes aside a tree branch. When Gambit approaches, he lets it go by hitting him. Rogue continues on saying her father was very upset when he found out. Cyclops adds that they all had that problem. Trauma bonding, man. Trauma bonding. They're all like, yeah, when this happened to me, and they're all worried about me now. Look at us now. Just look at you all now. Trauma. The X-Men top a hill and find the headquarters. Storm holds up a binoculars and tells them to stop. She spots a guard tower and guard gate. Rogue asks Beast, since he is so smart, why are they the way they are? Beast suggests that it could be because of gamma rays, pollution, ozone depletion, and even television. Gamma rays, huh? Beast. Morph suggests it's progress. Suddenly, Wolverine says that it is lousy luck. They look up and see him sitting in a tree. Wolverine claims they make a lot of noise. He leaps down the branch onto the ground near Gambit. The agent asks if he's joined them, and Wolverine says he is. He walks over to Storm and Cyclops. She asks if he found Jubilee. He explains that her trail went cold outside the house. He also says he was bit by a dog. Anyway, probably that one dog that was like scared of the Sentinel. Storm hands Cyclops the binoculars. He looks through then tells Storm to do her thing. She raises her hand and the clouds begin swirling as thunder rumbles. You could I mean now they're better at it because like what's the forecast? But back then, hey Storm, do your thing. What? She rises into the air as clouds pass over the moon. Inside the compound, a guard looks up and enters the booth. Morph, Wolverine, and Beast crawl their way up to the fence. Morph asks if Beast to lift him over the fence. Wolverine smiles and gives Beast a thumbs up. Morph screams as he is thrown over. Wolverine says he was right. The guard hears something and runs out. He runs up to Morph asking if he's alright. Morph changes to the guard and says he is. He pulls out a gun and shoots the guard with knockout gas. When the guard passes out, he transforms back. He begins to drag the guard away as Beast tosses Wolverine, who lands on his feet. Beast leaps over in a single bound. Cyclops watches through the binoculars. He tells Rogue and Gambit that the others are inside. As the three sneak around, a guard appears, ordering them to stop. Wolverine pulls out a claws, but the man is shocked by Storm's lightning. Wolverine looks at the unconscious man, then moves on. He approaches the door, then slices it down the side. He opens it since the lock is cut off. As they walk in, Beast points out that they have the guard's keys. Wolverine jokes he'll buy them a new door. He suddenly stops Beast and sniffs. He tells him that there are electronic beams. Beast asks if he can detect that infrared spectrum. Wolverine replies that he can smell the ozone. Storm hovers to show them and create a mist in the hallway. Beams show all across the hallway in front of them. Beast quotes a poem about preserving their past and calls it a minor poem for a minor problem. He leaps under the pipes overhead and swings his way forward. The poem is part of the Unknown Eros, a collection of poems by Padmore. In that poem, the faint heart averted many feet and many a tear in our opposed past to persevere. Beast quoted farewell while infiltrating the mutant control agency. He sees a security box and uses the keys to open it, then comments to himself if any of them are ever truly secure. He flips off all the security beam switches and powers down the system. Outside, Rogue approaches Cyclops and Gambit, noting that they look nervous. They watch the spotlight circle around. Cyclops just wants to know what's going on inside. Just then, a large armored vehicle rattles way down the road. Cyclops notes that they have trouble. Back in the building, the team walks down a hall. Morph says it is clear sailing now. They approach a door, waiting for them. Inside the door, armed guards ready their guns towards the door. Outside the door, Storm turns the handle and opens the door. To be continued. Oh shit, that's what it said. To be continued. Trust me, as a young kid watching that moment, that upset me. Okay, the first season of X-Men, when aired on Fox Kids, featured CGI character profile models during the end credits. Later airings replaced these credits with those similar to season two. When the fourth year episodes began, short clips from past episodes were filtered into the credits for the original airings. When the final year's worth of episodes aired, the series received slightly altered intro animation and music. When reruns of the series moved over to UPN for a short while, all the aired episodes, intros, and credits were replaced with brand animation featuring Cable among the regular X-Men. After Yoda Morris quit voicing Storm, some early episodes were redubbed by Allison Seeley Smith, however poorly and sometimes unsynchronized, most evident in Enter Magneto. There were often alterations in scenery and dialogue made to first season episodes after initial airings, such as the original ending of Night of the Sentinels Part 1. The original ending had soldiers dressed in red and white armor hiding behind the door to the room the X-Men were about to enter. However, re-airings had the soldiers in green military fatigues. This was the second attempt at a pilot for a series featuring the X-Men. An episode titled Pride of the X-Men for a series, also simply called X-Men, was produced and aired in 1999 but was considered a failure. Marvel would eventually go back to its drawing board and make this series starting with this episode. There are many elements with this two-part pilot that are similar to the previous failed pilot. The story focuses on a young girl, Kitty Pryde, and Jubilee, who first developed her mutant powers and just meets the X-Men. Both girls start the pilot off hating that they are mutants, but at the end accept who they are. Jubilee's characterization throughout the series, especially early on, is similar to Kitty's, such as wanting to go on missions but not being allowed to. Kitty and Jubilee accidentally enter the danger room and are rescued by the team. Wolverine is at first annoyed by the new girl. Mutant Registration first appeared in the How issued Young Uncanny X-Men number 141, which inspired the episode of Days of Future Past Part 1 and Days of Future Past Part 2. The first shot of Sabretooth attacking the police officers were chosen for several reasons. The first was to establish how scary mutants appear to the rest of humanity, establishing a challenge that good mutants like the X-Men would spend the series trying to overcome. Second was set up the mindset that Jubilee's foster parents would have upon learning that their daughter is a mutant, fearing she would be just like him. Third, to give a reason as to why Sentinels were created and since the police were so infectious. Lastly, they were able to very quickly establish Sabretooth for appearances later on. The title is most likely inspired by the classic movie Night of the Living Dead. Coincidentally or not, the sequel Dawn of the Dead was set in this mall. Spider-Man would have similarly named pilot with Night of the Lizard. The show was originally going to premiere over the Labor Day weekend of September 1992. However, due to production delays, it would soon be pushed to the end of October. This episode originally aired as a sneak preview, even though it wasn't ready for broadcast. The episode had hundreds of retakes, scenes where incorrectly animated shots are supposed to be fixed. Shadows were missing, characters missing from view screens. Magneto was shirtless, and Jubilee's powers looked like tadpoles. ACOM refused to do all the retakes, so for the interest of time, it was aired as is. This led Animation Insider to joke that ACOM's motto should be ACOM, quality is our only compromise. The second episode was similarly bad with 50 scenes missing. Fox was upset at the situation, pulled the series from the air for the time being, and threatened ACOM. The errors were later corrected with the animators working overtime, and Fox re-aired both parts of the pilot in January 1993. Stu of Marvel Animation Age noted that the series is regarded as one of Marvel's best animated efforts, and this episode was one of the best series best. He did feel that not much happened in the first part, and it was best to watch both parts together. He claimed that using the Sentinels right away was a risk, since they are great danger given that they are opposite of everything the X-Men fight for. He also noted that X-Men Evolution used Sentinels later after developing the world. However, he said they worked perfectly in this episode. He enjoyed how their first mission was not completely successful and so much went wrong. He did feel Jubilee was a brat constantly discussing her problems, though it served as a great build-up to the Sentinel appearance. He felt it was strange that the mall battle saved the most popular character, Cyclops, until the end. He noted how it was unusual for a cartoon at the time to only feature on battle. However, he claimed this made it stand out at the time and has not happened much since. He liked the idea of attacking the Mutant Control Agency for the first episode, showing that while the team fights for mutant rights, they are forced to break the law to do it. Overall, the episode served as a solid introduction and featured a pretty good cliffhanger. Not a lot happened with so many characters to introduce and tell their story of why they did what they did. It's forgivable. It has introduced the incredibly annoying Jubilee, sure, but you can't win them all. Part 2, however, completely surpassed the quality of this episode. Comic Book Resources ranked this and its follow up as number 2 of their top 15 episodes of the series. They noted that the first episode of the series, its greatest trump, was introducing the world to the eyes of Jubilee that establishes the tone of the series to come. They felt it did a great job introducing how terrifying this world could be. They liked how it was able to capture the gravity and terror of the Sentinels as lethal and unstoppable while exploring the themes of racism and fear of the other. They enjoyed that it captured the spirit of the comics for a Saturday morning cartoon show without making it too childish. Oh yeah, that line about, playing solo, huh? Yeah, not making it without making it too childish. Yeah, thanks for that. Children children are watching this show and listening to Gambit. Oh, I always play solo. Really, buddy? Comic Book Resources ranked this as its follow-up as the third top tier jerking episode of the series. Oh god, the next episode. The 1992 series premiere had an immense impact in both story and controversy. Night of the Sentinel established the tone the series would be exploring. Bright heroics laced in dark storylines. Fear-fested humans demand action against mutants. This leads to the Mutant Control Agency to require mutants to register with them. Jubilee, a firework-powered mutant, is targeted for apprehension. The X-Men must protect her but realize the threat is much worse. The X-Men raid the Mutant Control Agency and destroy the files on mutants. The episode has a 7.6 on the Internet Movie Database, IMDb. Yeah, okay. And that's the episode. Please, once again, let me know how you enjoyed this episode by entering the Q&A. Or if you want to go in full in depth on your answers, send me a message at fromtheapron@gmail.com. Once again, from undertheapron@gmail.com, and I will gladly read it on the air for the next episode. I'm going to have more episodes of other things in the coming weeks, so keep an ear out for that. As always, don't forget to rate us and leave us a review. And if you feel want to do a little bit more, follow and support us on Instagram, the Threads, YouTube, Apron_stories on the Twitter. Follow and join the lives on TikTok at Evolution of a Geek by subscribing. Join the Third Place Network Squad, TPNS, and show up to the live stream to watch. And I will shout you out at the end of every episode, like Menace Smiling, Cloudy November, Little Linguini, Brandy, Turtle Boy Flores, Toasted Bagel, Moth Queen, Moonlight Dancer, Squirrely Bree, Kimmy, Feeling Free, Mary Brewster, Tender Surrender, Forever Jane, Cherry Q, Quick Draw, Melinda Gonzalez 429, Red Casper 1, Bunny Rabbit, Dreamer Queen 4786, Halls for You Slot, Tanya Rose 78, That Grunge Witch, Smiley 120889, Purple Moose Crafting, Princess and the Herb, Tiffany the Fence Girl, Nerd and Texas Podcast, Little Creative Tina, Inappropriate Cupcake, JJ the Jet Pain. And don't forget to get 20% off on adult toys when you enter discount code EVO at pleasurepassport.shop. That's the discount code EVO. Link will be in the show notes. Thank you guys for supporting the podcast. Join the TikTok live, subscribe, and if you want to hang out and watch live, I will soon have a way where we can do this live on Riverside, and you can hang out in the chat with the rest of the squad. Send us a message of your favorite wrestling or comic book stories, questions, comments, ratings, or requests at our email. It is from undertheapron@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, joining the live, and being a huge part of this wonderful networking community. Tell your friends. Join us next time for more behind-the-scenes stories, movies, TV show reviews, and when we come to you from Under the Apron. I'm Evo, I'm proud of y'all, and I love your faces, bub.